Hey guys, it's Chala from PS I Love You. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I am starstruck with these star dies and embossing folders and stamps that I'm going to be using, and this is all part of the Facebook challenge for Scrap and Stamp. I'm starting off today using this Lucky Stars stamp set from Concord and Ninth. I really like the sentiments in here and the really cool star clusters that they have. I love this set and I use it quite often. I'm also going to be using these nesting star stitched dies. I honestly don't remember where I got them from. I just had them in my supplies there. I'll also be using the Lawn Fawn Sherbet cardstock. This is excellent cardstock. I love the thickness of it and how smooth it is. So I went ahead and cut these down to 6" by 6" squares, and I chose some stars and die cut them out, and then I'm just going to layer them on there. That yellow piece is going to be my main focus, and I just cut a square big enough to cover that smallest square. Now I want that to be my focus, so I'm going to add some of this Nuvo Shimmer Sparkle brush here, this Aquaflow Sparkle brush. Sorry, my cat's in the background. He wants to join us today. So I'm just applying a generous layer of this on. I love this shimmer, and if you like anything that sparkles and shimmers, you are going to love this pen for sure. All right, so it's kind of a thick layer. You can see that beautiful shimmer, and it's just kind of bowed the cardstock just a little bit, not much, but I did want to make sure I dried it off quite well before I decide to adhere it. And just to make sure that it does lay flat, I am going to use my score tape, and I'll put that around the edges of it and adhere it to the back side of that pink ballet slipper cardstock from Lawn Fawn. So again, just running this around the edge of this, I think this color is called Sticky Note. I really like the names of Lawn Fawn cardstock. I think they're a lot of fun. So just running that around the edge so that it adheres nicely and lays flat. All right, get that down. And then I just simply layer each of these square pieces on top of each other. So I do have the inserts, those stitched star die cuts that I'll be using on a different card. So I'm not using them on this one, but I will use them for my next card that I show you. So once I get all that release paper removed, it is just as simple as lining them up on each other, and I really like the kind of that layered star look that it gives. It's almost like a rainbow star, and I like how it kind of goes into the smallest star. It draws your eye into that. So again, it's just a really simple kind of card design, but I think with this type of cardstock, it really makes a big impact, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, so once I get all of those layered together and adhered together, I now can adhere all of this onto my card base. Now, this was just a card base that I had already bought with a matching envelope. Look at that shimmer, I love that. It's not my most favorite card base. It is a little bit flimsy. I think next time I would actually use the Lawn Fawn white cardstock just to have a little bit more support. I did think it needed a little bit something else on the edges, so I'm taking my embossing buddy and just adding that all around the edges so that I can do some embossing. And I grab that cluster of stars from the same stamp set that I'll be using my sentiment from. And I'm just going to lay it into this open space here just to kind of fill it up and again give the card a little bit more interest, but without really detracting too much from having your eye being drawn to that sparkly star in the center. I'm using my Stamp Perfect for this, that way I can just line it up and then keep stamping just by turning my card. I did remove the foam insert because the card is rather thick with all those different layers of cardstock. Again, this is just that Versamark Clear watermark ink. That's a nice sticky ink for when you're doing embossing. I'm going to give it 2 stamps there and then just apply the white embossing powder. I like to just give it 2 shots generously and then just flick it off into the coffee filter, and then I can pour that coffee filter back into my container and not waste any of the embossing powder. So I'll do this for each side of the card by stamping, adding the embossing powder, then stamping it, adding the embossing powder, and then turning it and heat setting. So just simply doing that for the other edges of the card, or the open spaces between the star. All right, now that that's done, you can see that I added my sentiment just by stamping on some black licorice lawn fawn cardstock. I did do a little bit of stamp surgery so that I could get that I think and then my stars together, and then inside I stamped "We're Friends." I did that with the Nocturne Versaclair ink on the inside, and look at that. I just think that is so pretty. It's a fairly simple card, but I think it's a great card to give a special friend of yours. So I think my stars were friends. All right, so for our next card that I'm going to be making, again, like I said, I'm using those leftover star pieces. I did go ahead and do some embossing with this Cuttlebug Star Blanket embossing folder, and I did that on that cilantro piece here, and I cut this down to 5.5 by 2 1/8 inches, and I'll just adhere it down onto the left side of my card panel. I'm also going to be using the Concord and Ninth Shine On stamp set for the sentiments. I want to stamp that "It's Your Time to Shine." All right, so again, this is just another simple and quick card, but I think this is super fun to do with all these different lawn fawn colors. I'm just going to adhere that cilantro emboss piece to the left-hand side of this standard A2 size card. Nothing fancy here, just using my tape runner to adhere that down. You can use any adhesive that you like. Another good strong one is, if you like liquid adhesives, is the Gina K Connect glue. That's another one that I usually reach for. So I'll just simply get that laid down as straight as possible, and then I can go ahead and adhere my stars on. So I think the best way that I like how it looks is just making sure that point of the star is lined up nicely with the edge of that cilantro cardstock. I think that just kind of looks nice and centered to me, and then just having the other two offset a bit. And I wanted to pop this red cardstock, I think, what do they call that? I can't remember the name of it, but I'll link it over at the Scrap and Stamp blog, so go ahead and I'll link that down below. Go check that out. It has all the supplies that I'm going to be using today over there, so you can click on there and check it out. But I pop this up just to add a bit more dimension and interest to the card. I like the embossing folder, how it's bumped up, and I thought it would look nice with this raised up a little bit as well. And then I'm just going to simply adhere that little pink ballet slipper star down, just really with the tape runner. Now for the sentiment, I'm going to do pretty much the same thing that I did with the other card, using my Stamp Perfect, the Versamark, and the white embossing powder, and again treating it with that embossing buddy. That's really important when you're using white embossing powder on black, just so you don't get those stray flecks. And I'll line up my sentiment nicely here with this Stamp Perfect. Again, using a stamping tool like this is really great, just to make sure that you get a good amount of ink onto that cardstock, especially with embossing. You want to make sure that that ink is nice and juicy so that all that beautiful embossing powder sticks to it. Again, just giving it 2 coats and flicking it off. Sometimes I go in with a little brush to get any strays, but this time I didn't have to. I got really good impression and used enough of that embossing buddy bag. All right, so I trimmed that down, and now I'm going to adhere this sentiment strip onto the front of my card, again popping it up with some of those foam squares and just centering it on to that blue star. So we'll say "It's your time to," and on the inside I want the sentiment to continue on and have that shine. Now that shine is again another thick sentiment, so I want to make sure that I can stamp it twice if I don't get the stamp fully inked the first time. So again, using a stamping tool is a good idea. Just pressing it down, using my favorite black ink, that Versaclair Nocturne, or Versafine Clair Nocturne, I guess it's called. I always get that wrong, I don't know why. And pressing it down nicely. And then you can see I get a beautiful, beautiful stamp just that first time. So "It's your time to shine." And that's really how I finished this card off. So I'll give you a quick look at this one. Again, it's simple, but it's fun, and I think it's a fun card to give to your friends. Alright, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Again, everything will be linked over at the Scrap and Stamp blog, so make sure you click over there. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any further videos. Thanks so much, guys, and until next time, take care.